Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I know everyone, we have been talking about obviously the main issues of affordability, transportation, but like others, I want to open it up to you and see what are the biggest things that you want to focus on and why you're running for reelection.
Sure. The same reasons, affordability and transportation, I
Yeah.
think, are the big ones in every district. Other things that affect my district that don't really affect other districts are food access issues. We have a lot of food deserts in District 2. We have the most families in District 2 is what our demographer told us, because it's one of the last places that families can afford to live. And so making sure that we're forwarding policy that helps families stay in Austin, that's always been my overall goal. That's the lens that every decision I make, I look through that lens and make sure that I feel like I'm making the right decision that will keep Austin affordable for our working class families. And the reason I'm running again is the same reason that I ran the first time. I believe that Southeast Austin deserved a strong voice and a passionate voice. And I was a big advocate for 10-1. I worked really hard to get 10-1 passed, and it was during that time I decided to run. It was during that time when I was campaigning for 10-1, I learned that not a single city council member lives south of the river. So I became really passionate for South Austin having a voice, and I really do believe I've been a strong advocate for my district, and I want to continue to be a strong advocate.
And when you reflect back on these past couple years, I mean, as we said with others, I mean, this is the first 10-1 system. Nobody fully knew until they went in what it would be like. I mean, what are some of the big accomplishments you had, and maybe what is some unfinished business that you want the chance to see through?
Yeah. I think the way we've addressed housing affordability is the answer to both of your questions. I think we've had a lot of accomplishments and some other policy that I wish to continue to push through. I had a town hall on Wednesday, and we had one of our staff from our housing come, and she gave a presentation, and she gave a really great compliment, and she said that this council has addressed affordability and housing affordability in a way that she hadn't ever seen before. And so to me, that's a big compliment. We've pushed policies such as things that will address missing middle, families in the middle, families that aren't, they make just enough above where you could get subsidized housing. So they're most of the families in my district. They're families that make about 70 to 90,000, and most of the families in my district make significantly less than that as families. And so there's a good portion of our city that can't afford to live in Austin and also couldn't qualify for subsidized housing. So we've pushed a lot of great policy that addresses that. It's such a broad issue, affordability. There's no magic wand, and so I think we've really taken a great approach, and I want to continue working on that policy. One of the things I sponsored was a resolution to see what we can do to help that middle part of Austin. Right. And they came back with several recommendations, and so we're in the process of going through those and seeing, what we can push forward, what is really feasible, because we're restricted a lot by by state law. And so I did push one of those recently, and it was the lending, seeing what the city can do and aid families in overcoming that obstacle of a down payment. And that's not using taxpayer dollars. It's just seeing what programs are out there, how the city can leverage its power as a city to partner with financial institutions. So that's what I hope to continue to focus on is helping that middle income and working class families.
And would you say that's one of the biggest benefits of this 10-1 system in terms of each individual in their own district seeing kind of what populations are falling through the cracks with some of these major policies and where they need to be tweaked? Because I know that is one area that you said has not had enough attention.
Absolutely, and you just made the argument for 10-1 with your question. That is exactly why 10-1 was a great thing, because we have representatives, I'm one of them, who I drive home every day to my district. I see the issues. I love that when somebody comes up to me and says, I live in your district, I usually ask them, what are the main crossroads? And I know exactly where they live and what neighborhood they live in. And so I see families with their strollers on the street because they don't have a sidewalk in that, by a school. And so during the quarter-cent fund project, we were able to fund certain projects in our district. And so it's been really rewarding seeing, driving in those neighborhoods and seeing that brand new sidewalk and seeing the mom with the stroller on that new sidewalk that I really believe is 10-1 created that, helped get that sidewalk there. And so yes, I do think I have seen things and worked on things that are a lot different, taken a different approach. That's not to say that previous councils didn't do good work. I really appreciate the work that our previous councils did, but I do believe it's a different perspective.
And then talking about the flip side, this, or maybe not even the flip side, I know that transportation and affordability are so interconnected, but that is obviously another main focus area. We've got a mobility bond coming up. Some people think that it's a good idea, bad idea. Beyond that, what else needs to happen that hasn't already?
We need to invest more in our public transit. Other cities who are facing or have faced the same issues we are right now, they invested in their public transit. And so, like, when you think of cities like San Francisco, Washington, D.C., Boston, these all have really great public transit. They're cities where you don't have to own a car. You can go there and not own a car. And if we can directly invest in our public transit and improve it to the point where people can reliably depend on it and it's frequent, then families can they can become a one-car family or a zero-car family, which would save a lot, per month. And so I really do think we need to focus on investing in and I'm also on the Cap Metro board, so I see that side of it too. I see how our ridership, unfortunately, has been declining, and we, just like the city, are limited by the budget that we have. And so that's what I'd like to see, and bigger investment. It's also land planning and city planning. It's, there's a lot of development happening in District 2 because the land is cheaper in that area right now. But then we're creating sprawl, and we're pushing middle-class families out. And so we need to really look at the way where we put density, where we put, new developments, and it needs to be sustainable, of course. It can't be just just ridiculous development, but it needs to be sustainable. But we need to think about how we bring on future development and where that goes. And that'll be a process, that's the CONEX process, is that where all that. So it's like all these different things that,
that are
affect
all connected,
affordability.
But you're looking at.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes, yes.
And when you look at some of your opponents, I'm wondering what experience, what perspective you have that you think sets you apart from those that you're running against.
I think there's a great deal that sets us apart. I have not only, even before my time on the city council, I stood in front of that podium and I spoke for 3 minutes. I spoke for my 3 minutes. I've advocated in front of council. I've been on the other side of council. As a firefighter, I was on the negotiating team. We negotiated with the city for a contract. I'm a former city employee. I have a lot of city experience and understanding and advocating for families, and I absolutely respect my opponents and I respect them for stepping up, and because it's not an easy job, and for someone to say I want to do this, I think it's great, but I think I bring a lot more experience than the other two.
And when you say that obviously it's not an easy job,
Yeah.
What is it that makes you think I'm not done yet?
Well, I think it's that middle-class families are still leaving Austin, and we have a declining African-American population. That's really a sad situation that we're in. We're the most economically segregated city. And so until, I really believe that Austin is the progressive city that everyone often thinks of when they think of Austin, I think I'll continue to advocate. And whether that be as a city council member or as a, Delia Garza citizen, I will always be, passionate about making sure that middle-class families have a voice in Austin.
And as you're kind of, reflecting back as you look to move forward as well, is there anything or, the biggest surprises in your time as a council member that you weren't expecting that maybe others, if they do succeed in entering this council, don't know what they're up against? I'm just wondering, it's a very unique position that you all have been in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think because I was involved in politics, I knew about the strong city manager form of government. That being said, it's different from the inside scene. Sometimes you feel a little powerless as a council member, which is interesting. And I think a lot of times our constituents don't understand that. And I absolutely understand why. I would think the same thing. Like, what do you mean you don't know? Or what do you mean you can't do anything? You're the council member. But I think the important part of that, and the important part of continuing my service, is that I've been able to make some great relationships with our staff and learn a lot. And just that first year was relationship building and understanding how the city worked. And so it was a surprise to see the different relationship. You kind of have two roles as a council member. You have your constituent services. I didn't get my trash picked up. Why don't we have a sidewalk part?
Right.
And then you have the big, broad policy part. So there's so much to learn, and I think we're on the right track. I think we've done some great things, and I think it would be I think it could hurt District 2 if we started all over again, basically.
Well, thank you so much
Sure.
for taking the time and coming to talk with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.